Hey, Mr. Rankin. Hopefully, Mark and everybody's assignments are somewhat enjoyable for you, and I guess it's my turn, I guess. Now, when I first heard the question about what is the human condition and how we express humanity as a whole, it took a lot of time to think about what I've learned within the past 3 years of high school, as well as remembering important aspects of my life. As I've been learning for the past 3 years, certain things have definitely changed for me, especially how I interpret things and acknowledge and understand the true meaning behind certain works of art. I definitely have learned to understand not just what's on the outside of literature and art, but as well as the truer meaning and the message of it entirely. The question of human condition and humanity and an overall thought of what we need in order to have a good life was definitely sort of a tricky question to interpret, but I think I tried my best answering it, but I've learned a couple of things by thinking about it, and the question of human condition and humanity and an overall thought of what we need in order to have a good life, it was pretty tricky to come up with some things, but I tried to figure it out as I went. But I've learned there's a lot of things that make us human. And I've definitely tried to pick out a couple of things that relate to me, and not only me, but certain things I've learned within the class and just overall relating things to my experiences in my life. So to start this off, I guess I might as well start talking about the humanity aspect and what the important questions of morality and, good and evil, like left and right sort of thing. One thing that's for certain, and that is humans are neither born good or evil. I think, in my opinion, we're born as blank slates, and we're honestly just completely innocent when we are born into this world. We don't have a personality at the start. We gain our personality by experiencing what we get to experience within life. So being born does not necessarily give you your personality immediately. What gives you your personality is how you're treated in your life, which what I basically just said. Over the past few years, I've definitely learned a couple lessons by being around people who are, they're in it for themselves. They're selfish and they're thinking about themselves. I've been around it, I've been there, I've seen it, and I just don't agree with it. But besides the point, some people have motivations of selfishness and stuff like that. For me, my opinion personally, I do not act like that. That is not who I am, and I think there is always a better in people. And especially, I think people have the ability to change as well, only if they try to. It's not always a case. Not everybody's selfish. There are bad people out there, but there also is a lot of really, really good people out there too. So other people can honestly just be understanding and very caring. Like if they have empathy and they actually understand certain subjects and things that others are going through, they're very reasonable people. Some people are just wholly, they're completely good. Others not so much, but there is a chance to change, especially when people want to. There's a human trait that we have is the adaptation to change our personality. If we want to change for the better, we can always do that. We're never stuck being the bad guy or the good guy. We can always change depending whatever we want to be. It's whatever we have or what we interpreted within our entire life. Um, what else? Hang on, I'm just going through my script here. Um, while I've been growing up, I've learned a lot of important life lessons from my mom. She's definitely taught me right from wrong and has given me a good perspective of the world that I can understand and I can interpret. I was raised by knowing the good within people and trying to just understand that everybody has a chance to be good. And I always try my hardest to be a good role model. Sometimes it's sort of, tricky to do, but I try to get it done. But I've learned that I don't just see what's in it for me. I look at the entire perspective of things and I interpret it by what is it for the good of the people. I don't just look at it for myself, I look at it for others, especially when they're troubling times or whatever. I try to look for what solves everybody's problems, not just mine, personally. For the people, and I'm saying this again, but for the people who are morally wrong or just are not like a good well-being sort of kind of person, they do have the chance to change. And I know this is sort of a cheesy movie or film to pull out for this, but I can contrast this sort of argument with Darth Vader. Darth Vader was, he's Anakin Skywalker, right? He was good and then he turned bad because, an accident and everything, and turned into a Sith Lord and was all evil, force stroking everybody. It's a bit of a problem, right? However, by the end of the film, or by the end of the last movie, Darth Vader has a choice. He has a choice to either help his son or to watch his son die. And the epiphany that goes into his mind really makes him change for the better. He was the bad guy in the movie, but then we actually seen the most human trait possible is him caring for his son and changing his ideals for the better of his son and for the better of mankind in general. He thought the Emperor was doing everything wrong and he decided to make a change instead of being the bad guy for once. So that is something I can relate to, especially for this part of the video. Another topic I could bring up is a human trait that all humans possess is the trait of collectiveness. Some people go through thoughts of how we act with each other in groups and how we see the world within different, groups, right? An important topic to look at is how we react to just decisions. Like, for example, is it just to harm others? Like, morally, is it a good thing or no? In my opinion on the matter is, as we see things, sometimes justice can be used with violence, especially when other people have been causing violence. That is my opinion on it. I just think that if people are treating others unfairly, they also need to have the same amount of justice and the quality of how they have treated others. I believe it is just to deal with them and I think it's just, even when violence is used. But when I think of the topic, I remember going back to learning the short story A Matter of Balance, and how the protagonist was, I forget his name. The protagonist was, he had to run away from the bikers, right? And then when it came to be the time where the bikers, they were asking for his help and everything, after they were threatening him, after they were chasing him, after they were, they were gonna hurt him some way, somehow. And the protagonist knew that too. So I think what he did was a perfect example of just violence, like the justice between his violence and his act. It was needed to emphasize the point of the theme of how it sometimes can be just to harm others if they were meaning bad in a certain way. And definitely I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that experience, because people who treat others wrong must be dealt with and taught a lesson, at least. Not like nothing bad or anything, but just, they need to understand what they did was wrong. And, taking it to the far extent of, killing 2 bikers on a hiking trip, I mean, that's a no-no personally. I wouldn't want to do that. But, I guess that's what that guy did in the story. And I mean, I guess if they were gonna harm his family or something in the future, I would have done the same thing, but I'm not in his shoes. I just read his story. Anyways, to contrast the whole collectiveness thing as human beings, I want to start talking about the individualism and how people think on their own, not just in a group or whatever, or believing something of a norm or whatever. It's what we think about individually as us. We don't need to see anybody else's perspective. It is our minds, our thoughts, right? Understanding what's important to yourself, as well as understanding the importance of one's thoughts, is a valuable trait of the human condition, in my opinion. Trying to understand what is your individual goal in life and what you want to have things turned out to, or something like that, it is very important to have that train of thought, especially when thinking in individualism practice or whatever. A text I can relate this to has got to be probably Fahrenheit 451, how Guy Montag was just, he was fine, he was a firefighter, he enjoyed it for a bit, but then he actually started to realize maybe it wasn't what his life was meant to be. There was a lot of things going on. His wife tried to kill herself the other day, and he took that really wrong. That was like his turning point, basically. This was when he started to realize, wait, my life isn't that good, is it? I don't even know my wife. Like, they didn't have much of a good relationship, but he was sitting in this fake reality for so long until he figures out what he actually wants in his life. And it's crazy. I don't know what else to say. It's crazy to think, after him dealing with the crisis of he truly wasn't happy, he begins to change it for what he thinks is right, what he thinks must be done. He used to burn books, and now he starts reading them and understands the truth. He understands that he's gotten played by. Like, he doesn't like the social norms that he's stuck in. He doesn't want machines pumping in other magical fluids that keep you alive, or he doesn't want what society has turned into, and that is what makes him have this crisis. He wants something new. He wants something different. He doesn't want to be unhappy anymore. He wants to actually find out what makes him happy. And what makes him happy is understanding the truth and knowing the truth. That's what didn't make him happy in the first place, was that he was blindfolded, figuratively. And another topic that I could throw on here is probably what we think as humans as what is a perfect life. What do we want in our lives that is something that we really want? In my opinion, something that I would truly like in my life is the care and the love of family. Family has got to be an important role in any human life. Your family is what makes you who you are, especially when you start to grow and learn. You understand who you are and why you're this way, especially like after education and everything. You're learning, but you also learn aspects with your family. You learn how to socialize and care for your family. You learn this by yourself. You learn this by looking at your family taking care of you. You have to learn this, and it's an important thing to learn because later on you're going to have to deal with it some way. I lost train of thought, sorry. Okay. Another topic I'd like to bring up is what hardships are. Hardships are quote unquote bad because it makes us feel bad. We have a lot of times in our lives where we just have a lot of struggles or something, and it's a real concern for us at the time. However, understanding that there has to be a balance between good and bad is very important for life, because you can never just have always good. If you have always good, what is good, right? Like, if you were in a life with no hardships, you wouldn't know what hardship is, and you would slowly start to realize, I've never felt that before. That is a human trait that everybody needs to feel, is hardship. If you do not feel hardship, then what is good in your life? Because if everything is good, then it's all the same. And if it's all the same, then your life is meaningless. If you have a balance between good and bad, it really brings out what we as humans have to deal with. And that is something meaningful, because we as humans need the train of thought again, sorry. We as humans need to understand that having good and bad just really sparks what we need to have in our life. It's not just having all good can make your life awesome or whatever. You need to have a little bit of bad in your life to have a little bit of good. It's just a fine balance. And then something else I can probably add would be just the aspect of family life. Really, thinking back on the question of what makes us human, or what's the human condition, I think the most life-changing impact that I will ever really care about or, deal with is understanding that family has got to be forever. Family is the most important thing in a human life, and that is a trait that is well needed in order to have humanity, is to understand how to love, understand how to feel, and understand how to care for those you love. And family is everything. Family is basically how you were created, your personality, the building blocks of everything. You learned that while being with family. You grew up with family. You learned hard things, you learned fine things. Like you just learned with family. And I definitely know for a fact that I have learned a lot of stuff from family and memories and everything. Knowing that, I think I got a pretty good understanding of what makes me human and what probably makes other people human. Family is definitely important. Out of all of the topics that I brought up, by far the most important one has to be family.